All right, we might get started with the introductions, and that will be fine if everyone's still making their way in. If they come in the next few minutes, they won't miss anything pressing. Welcome. All right, we might get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at 5 o'clock, which probably is a bit of a tricky time for many of you, but I really appreciate it, or other hours of the day for people in locations that are not NAM. My name is Joanna and I'm the director here at Westspace. And also in this chat is Sebastian Henry Jones. Seb, I'll just get you to raise your hand. And we also have Leila, who works in the Westspace team, who will be assisting us with this talk this afternoon. So before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting, well, myself, Seb and Leila are coming to you from Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country, and we recognise the significance that this land holds to traditional owners, and we pay our deepest respects to elders past, present, and emerging leaders with recognition of the young voices that are practising and teaching culture today. Sovereignty was never ceded, and we continue to make art, to experience art, and to talk about it on what always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm sure you're all coming to us from various lands across so-called Australia, so we pay our respects to elders of the various places that you're all coming to us from. So just to give you an overview of how the next hour, maybe just under an hour, will go, Seb and I are going to run through a bit of content around Westspace. So introducing Westspace for those of you that might have just seen this commission opportunity for the first time. It's your introduction to Westspace, just to give you an understanding of our context. Hello, those of you coming in. So yeah, just a bit of a kind of overview of Westspace and Collingwood Yards, and yeah, we'll hopefully give you a good understanding through which you can start pulling your application together. So after I kind of give a bit of an introduction, Seb's going to go through some recent commission projects that he's worked on at Westspace, and then it'll give you a sense of the various development opportunities open to you through this program. You'll probably start to see as we go that it's quite an open project or program, and it's really guided by the successful artists and how you want to best get out, like what you want to get out of this opportunity. A final note is that this is being recorded, and we will put a version of this video online. We might, with captions, just for artists to have a look. So quite informal, clearly has the way I'm speaking. So yes, feel free to still chime in with your questions. So yeah, so the second half of the session will be for you to ask questions of us. So feel free to write them in the chat as we go, or put your hand up using the little Zoom hand up function, and we will get to you after we go through a few things. And hello to everyone entering now. Okay. So as I said, I want to start with a bit of an introduction to Westspace. For those of you that may not have visited us or haven't, or perhaps haven't visited us in our new setting. So Westspace has been around for 30 years. In fact, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. And we've been in our current context of Collingwood Yards for the last 3 years. So Westspace is the leading independent visual arts organisation in Melbourne's inner north. Housed in multi-arts precinct Collingwood Yards, we really are a place to support the next generation of artists in Australia to develop and present new work through a combination of open call and invited commissions and partnership-led presentations. So a few kind of previous examples of our new space in Collingwood Yards. This is Stephen Roll's project. So Westspace occupies a unique position in the sector. We're the only one of our kind that combines the flexibility and drive of an artist-run initiative with the reputation, networks, resources, and audiences of a much larger public institution. This position allows us to function as a conduit across the ecology and to advocate for the vitality of Victoria's artist-led activity to our national and international networks. Another image of a past show by Abdul Rahman and Anna Richardson. So situated now in Collingwood Yards, we offer, in this new setting, we offer visibility, interdisciplinary pollination of practices, unique partnership opportunities, and collaboration between arts organisations and social enterprises. This collegiate working context allows us to grow audiences through co-presentation, precinct-wide visitation, and mutual promotion. Westspace operates with the ethos that the arts are about building connections and belonging to a community. This is key to our methodology and our identity. We seek to generate kinship between art, artists, and audiences through open, hospitable programs with multiple access points. We produce context, comprehension, and clarity around artistic practice, and we connect with broad audiences, introducing local artists to regional, national, and international audiences through our digital publishing platform Offsite. So our base includes over 10,000 visitors each year, alongside over 25,000 online subscribers. So you'd be reaching a broad network. So I'm going to hand over to Seb, who's going to speak through a few of our past commissions to give you a sense of what's possible.
Cool. Thanks for that introduction, Joanna. For those of you who are just joining now, my name's Seb. I work as the curator at Westspace, and I've been here for about 2 years, I would say. The image you're looking at now is actually the first project that I've been involved with as a curator from beginning to end. So I was part of the selection committee for this exhibition, and it opened only about 2 weeks ago. So the artist's name is Grace Cully. When Grace applied, she had only graduated from university maybe 2 years prior. So it really was, or is, the biggest, most ambitious project that she has put together to date. She would have been notified of the opportunity of being accepted for the opportunity in late 2021. I think it was November or December. And so she worked with Westspace for over like 18 months on this project. And to give you a bit of an idea of what that entails, I could just talk about some of the things we did together. Grace and I formed a really nice working relationship. We had studio visits maybe once every month to talk about her ideas. The first thing we did was to think about how to access further funding for the project so that it could be ambitious in scale. And we were able to secure funding through Creative Victoria for the development of the project. So we helped Grace find a studio near the gallery, which was really helpful to her and the studio visits. Essentially like helping her work on a long-term project and managing her time in what was like actually like a really significant research project. We connected her with Arts Access Victoria and gave her introductions to 2 industry mentors, those being Faye Devi and Pip Wallace, who gave her like a kind of informal mentorship at different stages of the development of the project. We introduced her to new collaborators. So there's a sound element of this exhibition, and Grace had never worked with sound before. I was talking to Grace at the opening, and she was saying that this was much like an honours year at university, but without a lot of the institutional and administrative bureaucracy. So it really is an opportunity to take a deep dive into your practice and think about, you know, what research questions are driving my practice and what does it mean to me? Yeah, I might talk about Huang Tran Yuan's exhibition now to think about some of the other work that we do in the time that we work with artists through the commissions program. So Huang presented this exhibition, would have been at the end of last year. And this was a call out that we did in partnership with Footscray Community Arts Centre in Western Melbourne. And a lot of the work that I did with Huang in this instance, other than helping him successfully apply for Australia Council funding, it was actually a lot of like research assistance and helping him to contextualize his project and his practice within Melbourne. So I understood my role in this, the development of this project as really providing a lot of support in terms of conceptual development and yeah, situating his specific project in our physical, social and cultural context in Collingwood Yards in Melbourne on stolen land. So yeah, Huang was also able to deliver a really amazing public program. So his exhibition took place at West Space in our gallery, and the second half of it took place at the gallery at Footscray Community Arts Centre. And we were able to develop a public program, which was like a shuttle bus that went between the two organisations. And on that bus, audience members encountered histories of First Nations and diasporic, solidarity and resistance, stories of gentrification, and the importance of language within those legacies and processes. So yeah, it was a really great project, and one that Huang, in his application, Huang came to us with quite a, what am I trying to say? His project really grew in ambition from working with us. He didn't come to us with a fully formed application. It was something that developed through conversations with different stakeholders and in consideration of, yeah, the histories of our site, of our organizations and the relationships between those. Yeah, maybe I'll speak about a third project to give you another idea of how our projects can grow, which is funny because there's a photo of some plant life in front of you all. So this exhibition was delivered late last year, and it was the first time that Joel Spring and Victoria Pham had collaborated. So Joel comes from an architectural background. Victoria comes from a, what's it called when you're digging into the ground? Archaeological background. So they wanted to work in a really expansive way. They were interested in these sculptural forms, but they wanted to have a sound element and they wanted to use projection. So very early on in the development of this project, we partnered with Liquid Architecture and Centre for Projection Art, who both happen to be tenants in Collingwood Yards. So yeah, this project was really thinking about not only like the social makeup of Collingwood Yards and its histories, but also like the architectural features of Collingwood Yards. We did some projections outside and we had a public program as well. But working with Liquid Architecture and Centre for Projection Art, the two artists learned how to projection map, for example. They learned a bit about sound engineering. They were able to deliver like a really high quality public program, and they published an accompanying like guest edited edition of Liquid Architecture's publishing platform called Disclaimer. So very quickly their project really grew in scale and reach. And the artists also, like, they came away from the project having learned new skills. So yeah, I hope those give you some idea of the different ways that Westspace can support your project. Whether you come to us with, you know, a very early idea or kernel of something that you're looking to develop, or you're engaged in something that you've been researching for a long period of time, there's different ways that we can help you grow it and situate it in, I guess, a national context or discourse. Yeah, I might just talk now about some logistical things like our space, for example. So this is a floor plan. Our gallery space is 90 square meters. To give you an idea of the size, I'm not sure what else to say. Like, we have a lot of natural light. We've worked with artists in the past who have presented video works, so we've been able to completely black out the space. We're really flexible in terms of the things that you're allowed to do. I mean, the exhibition I just spoke about had organic matter sitting in the gallery space for over 6 weeks, which is pretty rare. We can drill into the ceiling. We're really looking to facilitate whatever it is that you wish to achieve in the space. It is we are kind of existing within the larger structure of Collingwood Yard, so everything kind of is a negotiation in terms of the way that you wish to use the space. But on the whole, like, we really want to give you as much support to realize whatever it is you want to realize. Yeah, I think that might be it from me, unless I've missed anything really obvious.
I think that's good. We can come
nice.
back if there are any questions, and we might go through the next couple of slides just to reiterate some of the content that is in the application, just to kind of hopefully demystify some of these things, and it might raise questions for you in a moment. But thank you, Seb. And I also encourage anyone to go through our website and the last couple of years, particularly since we've been at Collingwood Yards, and look at installation images of just how different the space can be and the kinds of projects that we can facilitate in that space. For those of you that knew our Burke Street space, that was obviously much larger, and we'd have multiple exhibitions on at once. But now we're really focused on, you know, supporting a single body of work in that, within that 90 square meters. So certainly we've shown a few images here, but it's good to have a look at the kind of varied practices that we can support in the space. So some of this content is just from the application, but I thought just useful to kind of go through again. So the things that we're looking for are artists or artist collectives that are ready to move from early to mid-career, or should I say emerging to early to mid-career. You'll notice that in the application, we don't specify age or years out of art school or anything like that. It's really for you to kind of determine that this is the right time for you to be presenting at Westspace and working with us on this development. So ambitious projects that are ready to be developed. You don't have to know exactly what your project is going to look like at the end, but an idea of the kinds of things that you want to unpack and explore and have conversations about. We're obviously a space that is really compelled by experiments, risk-taking and innovation. A clear idea of the things that you would like to explore. Obviously that can change, but I think, you know, clarity is useful in terms of the kind of trajectory that you would like to follow during the next year. Again, consideration of our core values. That's, I think you get a sense looking at the past projects that we've been looking at. Your ambition. We want big, ambitious ideas, and your ability to realize a project at this scale. And we're seeking applications that are politically, culturally engaged, conceptually rigorous. And works that will kind of, you know, we can tackle some big ideas together. It's important to also note that we are inviting artists who are based anywhere in Australia. However, think about context, of course, and why NAM, why connecting to our audiences at this point. Some of the things that we offer: an artist fee of $2,000, minimum production budget of $1,000, in-kind support. It's always tricky to put a value to that, but it's conversations with us over a year, and our obviously our venue and our marketing and the kinds of conversations that you have over that period of time with our networks. So this also includes assistance seeking additional funding, connecting you to local, national, international peers, not only artists, but also curators, directors, and then audiences as well, guiding the conceptual development of your project, providing a platform for risk-taking, connecting you with collaborators. I think Joel and Victoria's project is probably the perfect example there. You may not know who they are yet, but have a think about the kinds of things that you would like to be exploring. We will also provide you with planning and exhibition design conversations around that. That's obviously something to be navigated with us and a professional installer. You'll receive beautiful documentation, as you will have seen in this PowerPoint. And then a conversation around public programs. Thinking back to Huang's project, that's the perfect example. The singing bus was just a beautiful way to connect to our very kind of specific audiences and bring those people together. And of course, we want to connect you with writers. So whether that's media coverage or some kind of in-depth critical writing to really unpack your work and have a document in that way. Some key dates are, of course, the applications close on the 26th of April. So you've still got plenty of time to get them in and also to ask us any questions. So the selection process will be made by a panel of peers that will be occurring in the month of May. And so successful applicants will be notified in early June. And the mentorship then begins with us, which is by negotiation through conversations around, how frequently you might want to catch up or have conversations. But we'll say the mentorship begins then. Just some kind of funding dates to have in mind. And there obviously, this is the tip of an enormous iceberg, but thinking about Australia Council project funding in September and Creative Vic project funding in July. And then we are looking for 2 commission projects. So one will be presented August to October in 2024, and the second will be presented October to December. We're almost at the point of questions, so get ready to ask them. But I just wanted to give a few tips and tricks around a successful application for some people that might be in this chat that haven't written many applications. There's probably many of you that are well versed in this, but I thought it's always useful to just kind of go over these things. Our application isn't too laborious, I hope. And if you need another way to be able to apply, whether that's through a conversation with us in the gallery over the phone, we welcome those different ways of applying, as we know the kind of labor involved in writing endless applications. But some things to keep in mind when you are putting that together. Be clear about your intentions. Why Westspace? Why you, who your practice, and why this particular moment? Think about your application as a development opportunity. And while you might have a compelling idea that you come to us with, it doesn't need to be the fully finished work. This work will go here, that will go there. Think of it more as the next year is a chance to really tease out those ideas and build on it. And if you'd like to note some of the elements that you get out of this opportunity, what things you might want to learn, who you might want to connect to, you don't necessarily have to have names, but again, just show us that you're thinking those things. And look, a few little tips for good writing. Love to go over these. Good writers, despite countless differences, follow the same patterns. Your writing is clear, well-structured, carefully worded. You're thinking about your audience. Remember that this will be assessed by peers and they may not all know your practice or you. Describe what your work is and use examples. Explain plausibly what your work may mean and how it may connect to the world at large. Our application is quite concise, so remember that every word counts. And yeah, you use imaginative vocabulary, spicy vocabulary, rather than the same words that we hear all the time. And don't try and explain a dense abstract idea with another one. So we're at the halfway point of this hour together, and I'm sure that there are many questions. I might stop sharing so that we can get back to the group and continue the conversation. Okay. And if you'd like us to show any of those slides, like the floor plan or the timeline, let me know. But shall we kick it off? Does anyone have a question to start with? Feel free to drop it in the chat if you like. Leila. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me? So this is not one I prepared earlier, Joanna, but this is one that I thought of when you were speaking. How ambitious is too ambitious, and how do you balance having something that's not a fully formed idea with ambitiousness? I mean, how do you balance having something that's not a fully formed idea with clarity?
That's a really good question. To think of first about the first part of that question, how ambitious is too ambitious? I guess we have to live in the real world, which is one that is guided by the budget, the finances of a particular exhibition and project. So as we mentioned, we have a modest artist fee of $2,000. However, we do help artists in writing applications and seeking additional funding. But I guess, yeah, thinking through what might be achievable within your capacity over that period of time. What other projects do you have on? What other exhibitions are you preparing for? How much studio time will you have? I think burnout culture is very real, and just being realistic about your output and, when I say ambitious ideas, I don't necessarily mean, bigger is better and more projections and all of that. It's kind of more about pushing yourself and where your practice is now, and perhaps you're exploring new ideas and you're looking to have the kind of framework and the support around you of our team to try new things and to take risks kind of conceptually or materially. Does that help? I guess, sometimes these EOIs for galleries can be off you go and, present your work, but you might not have a sounding board to bounce these ideas off of. And we're providing that support around, how we might be able to, get the project off the ground. Seb, do you have anything to add to that?
I guess, yeah, for me, thinking about what being ambitious means, for me, it just means how do you hope for your practice to grow in the time that you are going to spend with West Space. And you might, for me, it's about when I'm looking at the applications, I'll be looking at the support material, and it's you might put something forward that seems super ambitious, but then if you've got support material to show that you've actually been able to achieve that kind of thing before, then it makes it feel a lot more tangible. Yeah.
Sam?
Hi, Joe. On the subject of support material, say you have a little drawing, but you're very much coming to it with an open mind, that you're I'm just using this drawing to articulate maybe where words don't fill the voids, but maybe it's I know that the drawings might not be birthed into reality, but it helps communicate it. Would you add them to the support material to help communicate? Yes. Okay, good. Sorry, you go.
I can answer both questions after you say them if you like. Or
What's that?
did you have a second question, or
Yeah.
did you?
Yeah, I do. I was on the application and just looking at like where it says provide a maximum of 500 word statement that addresses the following. So an introduction to your artistic practice or a particular project you'd like to develop through this opportunity. When I was, sorry, I'm just going back to the Zoom. When I was starting to like draft some dot points, I kind of wanted to address both, like an introduction and something that I'd be interested in exploring. That's
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely think about how those two things are connected. So how is your idea an expression of your artistic practice up to date? Or like, what are you interested in? And yeah, how does that manifest in your practice? And then how does it apply to the opportunity?
Great.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And then to your question about support material as well, like, I don't know, I only got asked a similar question this afternoon, but an artist said, I haven't been to university or shown that much, but I have been involved in a lot of projects that I would understand to be of cultural significance. So if you have, documentation of something that you've been involved in that hasn't been like institutional or hasn't happened at an artist-run initiative, but it helps to illustrate your idea or helps us to understand what you're thinking about, definitely include it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. So very good question from Bianca. How would it work for interstate artists? And actually, Seb, I might get you to speak to this and use some examples, because Joel and Victoria, for example, don't live in Melbourne, and we've got artists coming up later this year who have come to us through the commission program who aren't based here.
Yeah, so I mean, interestingly enough, like Joel lives in Sydney and Victoria, like when we were developing the exhibition, was living in the UK, even though she's originally from Australia. So we had, I guess we just kind of made do. Like we had a lot of Zoom conversations. We had like a really lengthy email correspondence. Like we worked with a pretty extensive Google document to keep in communication. When he could, Joel came to do a few site visits, which was important for their project. What else? We're also working with an artist based in New South Wales for a show later this year. And he is working with a lot of projection. So a lot of our conversations have involved like providing him with plans of the site, dimensions of things, like really basic logistic things like that. With this project, we were able to secure state and federal funding. So he has enough money to come and do a few site visits. It's definitely beneficial for your project if you're able to come to the gallery at least once and see what Collingwood Yards is like. But yeah, if you're applying and you're an interstate artist, you're not at any disadvantage when it comes to the application process. If we end up working with you, we just find ways to balance that distance. And it's worth mentioning as well that like during COVID and lockdown, like even artists that were based in Melbourne, we were essentially just working with over Zoom. So yeah, it'd be pretty much the same in that regards. Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much if you're based interstate and that's something you're concerned about.
Just going quickly through the chat. I think just quickly to Ella's point, we want to remain as open to dialogue as possible, as what's feasible for us. And so I replied to Ella, but I just wanted to say that this is to anyone. If you'd like to pop in and chat to us or have a Zoom, a quick Zoom separately, we really do offer that. So I think, open hours during the week are best for us, Wednesday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can email us at the info account, or my email is director@westbase.org. I just think that it's important to be open to, to these conversations. So Seb, shall we go through, Juan here's got 3 questions. They can't chat as they're on the tram. So if anyone else is on their phone and can't read the questions, I might just go through them one by one. So the first question is, if we're exhibiting in the window space, and for anyone that isn't familiar with that, it's a project space that we have 10 to 11 projects in per year. Sorry, excuse the sun just streaming in. So if we are exhibiting in the window space and would like to expand on that project, would this commission be ideal for that? Would it become a bit biased towards the selection process, knowing that you've already exhibited in the window? Good question. Thinking on our feet there. I guess we are looking at providing opportunities for multiple artists. And so if you are already showing with us this year, that might be a consideration for us. What do you think, Seb?
Yeah, I actually I never thought about this before.
Yeah,
I think it would really depend on the application and the way you're able to contextualize the way you're looking for the project and your practice to grow. But maybe we could have a further conversation about that question and get back to you with a definitive answer, because it's kind of left me stumped at the moment.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, on one hand, we really strive for relationships with artists that are not transactional or too short term. We want to kind of come back to your conversations that you're having in your practice over again, so it doesn't feel like you show with us and then you're off out the door. We want to kind of build on these things, especially if our audiences are starting to think about the ideas within your practice. And so presenting, multiple, like an extension of a window work does on one hand sound quite compelling, but I guess on the other, we're also thinking about how many opportunities we can provide per year. It's much fewer than past iterations of West Space. So I guess it's all a balancing act really, and it might be a bit of a, based on the application, but something good to think about. So the second part of this 3-part question is, how would international discussions peering be facilitated and nurtured? Is there such thing as a highly ambitious peer mentor to ask for? As in like someone that is, I'm always up for, I think it's worth asking someone. If you're thinking it's someone kind of quite established and high level, I think that we can leverage our networks to build those relationships. West Space already has a number of international organizations and curators that we have partnered with, worked with. We're certainly an organization that can help seed those relationships. How would that be facilitated? I guess there are multiple ways that could happen. We could seek funding. There are multiple streams for funding for mentors that we can go for that are through the Australia Council or Curator Victoria or other, as I think it would be important to be able to pay the mentor. When we talk about a mentorship, that's kind of coming from our team, but if we wanted to extend that out to someone else, we would want to provide some funds for their time. But that is certainly something that we can navigate and connect the successful applicant with. That's something that we're thinking about. We very briefly mentioned Offsite earlier. That's really it's our digital platform that is used as a space to connect with international audiences, curators, peers. So it's really on our radar. I feel like I'm not being very specific. Not sure what to add to that.
Yeah, I would just say, like, yes, we can facilitate discussions with international peers. Obviously, there are some people in the big arts industry that we won't have access to, but we'll do our best to, yeah, like it's kind of my job as a curator to help the artists that I'm working with understand their work amongst their peers. So yeah, it's something that we can definitely facilitate, whether that be with an individual based overseas, or maybe, you know, the right person to talk to could be living on this continent. But there's definitely ways that we can build those kinds of relationships into a long-term project.
Yes, beautiful. Thanks, Seb. And the third part of that question is touching on what we were just mentioning with Ella's question. Is there an alternative method of submitting the application? One, if the person isn't comfortable with writing or the format of an application, for example, a voice recording, interview in person, video recording. And I'm glad you asked that question, because I feel like I touched on it and then moved past it really quickly. But we really strive to be, to make, as I said before, make our applications as kind of straightforward as possible, to reduce the labor from artists in the many applications that we recognize that you're all submitting all the time. So yes, we certainly, I think as long as it can be deemed a similar, or, you know, an equal amount of context, so that we understand the project in the same way that the written application would be, we certainly encourage, you know, a voice recording could have the same number of words, but it could be in your voice in that way. An interview would possibly be something that we could do on a case by case basis, where we write notes if you came into the gallery and had a chat with us. So yeah, I think to put that plainly, yes, that's something that we can discuss on an individual basis. I've certainly encourage it. I put my email in the chat there. If we've got the capacity, we'll help you with that. Okay. Another question in the chat. So Ming asks, I'm currently doing a residency and will finish by March 2024. I'm hoping to associate my current residency with the West Space Commission. Is this something that West Space would consider? Oh,
yeah, that was my question.
Sorry, I read it out for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yes. Short answer, yes.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any concerns regarding doing two things at the same time?
Sorry, can you just repeat that?
Sorry, are there any concerns regarding doing the two things at the same time?
I would say definitely no concerns with doing, you know, the West Space Commission program while you're doing something else. It depends on, how you're able to manage your own time, and often those things feed into each other anyway. But yeah, we really understand that artists, like, you know, artists are really complex. Well, people are really complex, and they have an artistic practice, they might have a job, they might have a family. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely no problem at all with doing the commission alongside all the other things that you've got to do. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, we're certainly here to support you rather than the other way around. All right. Anyone else have a question who wants to pop their video on and ask it? We've got about 10 minutes left together, or you can write it in the chat.
Yeah, just going, did we answer the question about how the commission program? Oh, yeah, we did. Sorry. I just forgot, but you already answered it. Just about interstate artists.
Oh, yeah. What else did you have on your list, Leila?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I was wondering, I joined the meeting pretty late, but in terms of you guys are commissioning for new work? Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask how much that might be?
Sorry, that was cutting out there. What the fee is?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fee is $2,000. It's quite modest. So we would work with you on seeking additional funding to support that project. It doesn't need to be all new work. It can be part, you know, the exhibition can include some existing work. It's really about, this opportunity is really a development. So where you have a year thereabouts to work with us on the development of your work.
Okay.
So yeah, and then there would be a minimum production budget of around 1,000, keeping in mind that we're quite a, you know, small to medium gallery, so we're seeking external funding to support these projects, and that then comes along with guidance and support from our team.
Right. And you guys talked about doing a collaboration or working with international artists and other artists, but is there an opportunity for artists to get involved with institutions as well? For example, like ACME?
Yeah, absolutely. Many of our past commissioned artists have connected with other organisations to then present their work, or it could be lined up to be premiered at Westbase and then go on to another presentation, or have like a co-presentation. We were talking about Huang Tran Yuan's exhibition earlier, which was presented across Westbase and Footscray Community Arts. There were two elements of that presentation across those two spaces. So yeah, I think that you know, leveraging those kinds of opportunities is certainly something that we can do, and also keeping in mind, you know, the limitations of what we can provide in terms of artist fees. That's kind of a smart way to go about it.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Thank you. That's all.
Cool. Thank you. Good questions. Yes. Trying to think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah.
I've gathered myself.
Go on.
So this question is just about medium, and it's, do artists have to make visual art, and does Westbase prioritise a certain art form in their consideration of applications?
Seb, I feel like you'll answer this well.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is definitely no. We don't favor like one art form over another. I guess what we are looking for in these applications are artistic practices that aren't just interested or concerned with themselves. And by that, I mean, we're looking to work with artists who understand that their practice occurs within, you know, a social, cultural, historical context that, you know, transcends the studio and art history. So yeah, you can present work of any medium, any form, but what will really make your application sing is if you're just aware of how it exists as a part of you and how you exist as a part of society, essentially, and how those things, might come to a head in the gallery at Westbase. So just thinking really about the context that your practice is occurring in.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Hi. I just wanted to confirm, just it says here with the application to provide a weblet containing a CV and images of past work, or provide PDF attachment. I just wasn't sure, is it in relation to what, you know, what I'm applying for, or the project that I'm applying for, or is it just like a background in general, and how, what's the limit of pages or documents that you're after? Oh, is that clear? Sorry.
Yes. So I think that that is an opportunity for you to introduce us to your practice. If you are pitching something new and you haven't created it yet and there's no imagery, that's fine. But something that tells us what you're on about, what you've made before that might, like various elements of what you've made before that might connect to your new project, just giving us a really good, you know, we're visual people, right? A good sense of what you've made before, and that you'll be able to kind of, you know, fulfill the requirements of this commission in the gallery space. In terms of how many, I don't think we've specified, have we, Seb? But we probably should. How many?
Yeah, I don't know when the like when the form caps out, like what the maximum size for files is. Yeah, I would say for us, just give as concisely as possible a really good idea of the kind of work that you're engaged in. And I know that sounds vague, but
Yeah,
if
definitely
you,
don't have reams and reams.
yeah,
With
if you send us an
good-
email, we can check those technical bits for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Can I, hello, hi. So you guys spoke about having at least a year for the kind of development of the work to happen. Was that correct?
That's right. So you probably missed that timeline slide. Essentially, so applications close on the 26th of April, and our committee will be meeting in May. The successful applicant will be notified early June, and the presentation, there are 2 slots that we're looking for next year. So next year's program contains 5 exhibitions, and the last 2 exhibitions in the program are these commissions. The first one runs from August to October. The days are being determined.
Yeah.
And the second runs from October until late December.
Right. So it would be kind of better to have a project that is a lot more open for everyone to kind of work together with, to develop with the team. Rather than,
Well, I mean, I think that we're essentially opening that for, yeah, if that's what you want to get out of this opportunity, then yes, there aren't so many kind of development opportunities such as this in EOIs and galleries our size. So it's really as much as you want to get out. And, you know, Seb can probably attest, like artists previously have varied in how much their project has, like how much kind of they want to get out of that mentorship. But we're really encouraging you to use this opportunity for growth within your practice.
Okay. What about the gallery space? Are you guys pretty flexible in terms of the walls being painted and kind of transforming the space, or is that quite limited in regards to, I mean, it's pretty free, I'm guessing, with the grants and.
It is, yeah. Seb, do you want to go back to those points?
Sorry, I'm making you guys repeat. It's being recorded. So I can...
Totally fine.
I can just quickly say, like, we really want to help you create the space that you want to for your exhibition. One caveat is that we exist in Collingwood Yards, and so there is an overarching kind of level of control that sometimes rests outside of our authority. But so far, we've been able to, really help artists deliver the exhibition that they want to deliver. We can drill into the ceilings, paint the walls. We've had carpet in some shows. Like, it's always a discussion.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
I'm just looking to see if a few people are asking for the slides. I'm just looking to see if I can add the PDF to the chat, but it might be too enormous. Otherwise, I can email it around. It just has, for those of you that came in late, it has a few notes about Westbase, notes on the commission, which is pulled from the application text, and some images of past exhibitions, and a floor plan. Sorry, talk amongst yourselves. I'm just trying to see if I can add this in. We've probably got time for one more question. Maybe people can send it an email. Oh.
There is a question, and I'm not sure if it's been answered from Tessa about what are the main traits of a strong concept.
Hey, hi guys, thanks so much for this. Yeah, I haven't submitted an application before, so as a curator, what are the strongest characteristics of a strong concept, and what are the things that you that are like not necessarily red flags, but just stuff that maybe is like underdeveloped or underwritten or underthought?
Yeah, so when you say like a strong, do you mean strong concept or a strong application?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, yeah, I don't think there's not a strong concept that exists in the world. I think there are concepts that have been contextualized. And for me, those are the really strong ones. If you're able to give me a sense of like, actually, why do you make art? Like, what does having a creative practice mean for you as someone living in the 21st century in Australia? Just being able to connect this idea you have with the reality that we all live in is like a really good way of delivering a strong concept, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my answer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice answer, Seb. I guess, yeah, I always think about to like be kind of reductive, but I feel like it's helpful just to like pull it back down. I always think about, what is this work about? What is, what are the material considerations, the process-based considerations, and what does that mean? But then why does that matter? And I think I'm just repeating what Seb said, but why does that matter to the world at large? I think, I love that you say, Seb, there are no bad concepts, I guess to add to that, just something that might have been rehashed over and over, we're not necessarily looking for, but yeah, other than that, it's very open.
Yeah, great. Thank you. No, that's really helpful.
Right. It's nearly 6 o'clock. So, there's just one more question. Which is around budget. Now, we don't actually specifically ask for budget. I think that it's definitely important in your consideration of your project to have a good sense of what you might need, because the first budget that you might be going for the first application that you'll be going for, if you are successful, will be a Creative Victoria application to support this project, which they will ask you to outline the various elements. So I would definitely recommend sketching one up, even just a broad brushstroke, so that you have a good sense of whether or not what you're putting forward is realistic. We haven't asked for it, so I'm not going to say put it in, because otherwise only this group will know about that. But I think, yeah, definitely a good idea to scratch one up for yourself. And if there are any notes about that you'd like to tell us about, then it just shows your thinking. Now, I've just added a PDF of the slides, which is some content that, is already in that application, but hopefully that's come through. It was absolutely enormous. So I'm not sure if it's come through to any in the chat. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Cool. Well, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to let you all go, but thank you for sharing this space with us. And thank you so much to Seb for your beautiful answers, and to Leila for your brilliant questions, and to everyone for your questions. We look forward to reading all of your applications. Thank you.